you're going to figure it out on the way. I mean, every single person does, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not so much trial and error; it's really error and trial.
Yeah.
It's you make your errors first, and how quickly and what you learn from them. I think is maybe the difference between when someone looks at someone and is like, oh, they're really smart. Um, you know, it, it's I believe so in inventing my own sort of space, right? Because I actually had to invent a lot of solutions, and I think that's always been primarily one of my major strengths is my creativity, but my creativity from a problem solving um, perspective that I can see solutions and I can kind of see patterns. Was I would see a solution and have that vision and that vision and that sight, but then I had to fail until I got it right. And I think too often, a lot of times we talk so much about how, sort of the success, and then we reflect back and be like, yeah, but I failed so many times along the way. And I think that we fail to talk about the actual failure as it's happening so that people understand, like, it's sort of a little, you know, understand what I mean? Like, it's a little disconnected when you're like, oh, look, I built a gym in my garage and I train professional soccer players, and I did it in 3 months, and I can say, yes, I built my own, band anchors, and I'm inventing this mobility band anchor, which I'm hoping to get launched next year. And um, you talk about all these things like, oh, I built this rack, but you see the success in the pictures. Like you go on my Instagram, you go on my YouTube channel, and like you see the success, but you don't see all the failures that went into that along the way. And kind of in that vein, I've committed to starting on my Instagram page to broadcasting more of my failures. And some of them are going to be quirky and funny, and I'm going to call a certain series Ivy Leaguers do stupid shit. It'll be like hashtag Ivy League stupid, because of it's not just brilliance. It's not just like you wake up and everything works out. It's like you're moving so fast, you do stupid shit, and you make quirky mistakes. The other day, I was like running off to train one of my athletes, and I was like, "Oh crap, I haven't eaten." Like, what do you mean you haven't eaten? Like, this is like my thing, right? And I'm like, man, well, number one, I'm stupid for not eating. Number two, and there's a difference between fasting, which is intentionally not eating, and not eating because like you just didn't eat. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna grab a rice cake and I'm gonna melt some butter on it, and I'll just throw some hemp on it, some hemp seeds on it, and I'll get a real quick snack. I'll run out the door, and I pull out my rice cake and I go to put butter on it, and I realize I just pulled my Kerrygold out of the freezer and it's frozen. I'm like, oh crap! I don't have time to melt it. So I'm like, all right, well, while I go get changed, this is awesome. I'm gonna put my rice cake in my toaster oven, and I'm just gonna set it on low. And if the butter will melt, it'll soak in. It'll be amazing. I come out and my toaster oven's on fire. Apparently, rice cakes in toaster ovens, like the rice cake actually is almost like paper and it catches on fire. So the whole thing is on fire. And I took a picture of the rice cake, which I'll put up on my Instagram. But I was debating between, and this is another stupid thing, right? Between, do I take the picture of the toaster on fire or do I put out the fire? Like, this shouldn't be a thought process. But that's a failure. But that's a funny, quirky example. But,
yeah. Well, it's like you're using your failures as stepping stones, right? They're so a lot of people, I feel like failures are perceived obstacles because they're perceived. They're like, this is my obstacle to why I'm not succeeding in life because I'm failing. So I want to keep failing. And what sticks out with you, at least with your story, when you've been a ballet dancer for a good part of your life, and you've been through the ringer, all the types of injuries you've gone through, and each injury you've had, I mean, some of them are really debilitating. Some of the things you were talking about.
Yeah.
And it brought you into the states of being depressed, into the states of being just feeling like crap. But I feel like you saw it as an opportunity. And you talked to me about this before, and you saw it as an opportunity, and you went on this like hunt, this mission to learn about every little intricacy, every little nuance in the body. And as you were doing that, you were seeing these patterns. And like you were saying with your gym, it's the same thing. You're able to see these patterns. And once you know the patterns, like, okay, I know this. Because it happens every single time when you do X, when I do Y, when I do Z, I can see it. And that's the beauty of Scott's gym, is when you walk into the gym, this is really cool. When you walk into this garage space, you know how you say that, form follows function? It goes both ways at his gym. Form follows function, function follows form, which is super, super cool. Like, everything has a purpose. And not only is it aesthetically pleasing, of course you see it, it looks awesome, but then when you're actually doing the thing, whatever is prescribed in there, you can see it. You can see why. And that's the beauty of his gym. And you're learning as you're doing it, too. You're learning because you're like, oh, I see how this is pulling me to a better posture. I can see how it's pulling me to my weaker side, making me activate muscles that were turned off before. I can see Scott's thought process because he's showing me the pattern in this awesome freaking badass space. And that's what it's about. Like, and I think it's amazing how you've brought this gym together. And I think it's because of all the failures you've gone through. Yeah. It's taught you so much along the way. And then it's brought you to this point. It's been cultivated. You have this eye to see things, but it's been cultivated over time. I think that's what people need to understand. It's not like you wake up and you're flawless.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the misconception, is that you wake up and you're flawless, and it's like, yes, I see the pattern, but you then have to go and run it through the ringer. Mm-hmm. I mean, just time after time after time. I rebuilt that, just as an example in there, I rebuilt my first bumper plate rack, I think 4 times. 4 times.
Wow.
I mean, I spent 30 hours a week in this garage. I mean, that's not my job. This is what I'm coaching. I'm coaching at CATS. I'm training with the Aztecs. I'm launching a podcast with you. You and I'm actually preparing to finish my thesis for my master's in biomechanics and motor control, and I'm putting 30 hours extra a week with a unbelievably understanding girlfriend. Which is awesome, and why I dedicated that space to her and to my dad, who's really a big force behind it. But I was just failing and bleeding, and I mean, using substandard tools, substandard wood. Yeah. I mean, the wood is just not the highest quality wood because you're building it on budget, and I'm using like a $70 battery operated combo of a circular saw and a drill, and a electric screwdriver drill, and I've been able to reinforce it and create it the way I wanted to, and that's been a real a real labor of love, but also just a labor of patience, and actually forcing myself to accept that this line isn't straight, that this cut wasn't perfect, that I have to move forward because this is not the last facility I'm going to build. It's the first one. And this first one is going to be the proving ground for the next one. And I've never been in a gym where I've ever been completely happy, because I'm just like, this is not good enough. How do they not get it? It's not good enough. And I built this to be everything that has never existed in another gym before. But I had to go through it and accept that there will be another one. And I will never accept less than this. But I failed so many times in that process, and I could see the end, and I knew what I needed to do, but I'm not really a builder. That's not really my trade, right? But I was willing to, from what I could see in my mind and see how it needed to fit together, just spend hours out in the sun and 100+ degree heat, using my sunglasses as my eye protective gear to cut with my bootleg circular saw. Um, and so I just figured it out, got it right. And I think the same is to be said with movement. Like, people see that a movement or an exercise works, but they're not willing to go in the gym and spend every Saturday working it. Like, I've spent, I think over the last 8 to 10 years, almost once a week, maybe twice at sometimes, but every Saturday would be a day I'd go in and I'd spend 3 to 4 hours in the gym, and I would just work everything. Anything that I saw, any exercise, any training protocol, and I ran it, and I ran through it. Everything I've ever recommended to a client, I've ran it, and I've ran it through, and I've ran it through, and I've run it through. And my current versions of a lot of the holistic style programming that I use, I mean, I'm in the process of writing my first book. I'm running this thing over a long time. You know, I don't like when people come out and without having really tested what they have and really have belief that they can release that. That they jump the gun and they release something that they haven't really run through and that they haven't let fail a considerable amount of times. And I guess one person I heard talk about this recently that I really respect is John Anderson, Anderson, S-E-N, who is a professional strongman who just turned a pro bodybuilder. And he wrote his first book, Deep Water, after training for strongman for 19 years. And he's like, I wasn't confident that my system would work yet until I fully worked out all of the failure. And I respect that. And he switched into professional bodybuilding, and in only 2 competitions he's got his pro card. I mean, that's unheard of. Like, there's only literally a handful of people who have ever done it. He's the first professional strongman to ever actually get his pro card for pro bodybuilding. And he had to make a lot of changes in the way that he ate, his diet, things like that. And he was talking about how he will release what he did, and he wants to use it to help other people. He's like, I've run it through twice. It's like I haven't made it fail enough. Like, you know, he hasn't seen where the leaks are, and I feel the same way. You know, I might wake up and have this inspiration, but I'm going to work it until I get the leaks sealed.
Absolutely. I think that's really inspiring. And even with going back to just doing it and failing on the way there and learning from your failures. At least with me, I think what's giving me the inspiration to continue and move on now, several factors, but when I first started having problems with this disease, hidradenitis, the tongue twister one, crazy one, I'm going to say HS for short, it was debilitating on many levels. You know, I couldn't be social because I felt like I reeked of pus bacteria and blood all the time, right? I couldn't move the way I'd like to. I couldn't move my arms overhead. I couldn't push things. I couldn't pull things. Everything just sucked. I couldn't eat the foods that I usually enjoyed, or at least I thought I couldn't. And that's important. But it's because I chose to go on a hunt, just like you did. You know, I went on a hunt just to find anything and everything to get me an inch better or a percentage better in the direction of where I wanted it to be, how I wanted to feel. And I had no idea how I was supposed to feel. I just knew that this was not acceptable to me. And I was willing to do whatever it took, whether I tried this thing and it failed, whatever. Like, I'm going to try it anyway. Because the doctors would just tell me, take this bacterial wash, take this steroid, good luck, right? And that was it. So it's the same thing, you know, through all of that, through everything I went through with that, it didn't happen overnight. It took me years and years to find solutions. With diet, with breathing patterns, with moving in ways that were healing for me. And just psychologically, affirming myself. So anyway, I think we have like a minute left, right?
Yeah, we just have like a minute. I don't know. You want to take a little break, and we could throw down part 3 for this special Labor Day for the people who are
take a little breather.
Chilling out? All right.
Sure.
We'll be back in about 10.